this side, how'd I go? I'll just do it. So the main thing is just that we're working on the anchor base, and I'm reorienting, having followed the instructions, I'm reorienting this from how the isometric view shows it. So I've already determined that this is 4.5 by 6. So I'm going to jump over to my view here, construction layer. Let's make that rectangle somewhere down here, 6.5 by 4.5. I can do a paper rectangle too if this helps. If this helps, this is great because you just get an idea that really we're working within 16 inches here though by I think it's 9.5, that's all right. Yeah, 9.5. So that's actually what my paper is going to look like. So this view is definitely going to probably push this paper size, I think. I might decide that we've got to um, I'm trying to drag this down. I'll need some room to do a few dimensions below it and above it. I'll just get an idea of how much, because my part is going to sit in here and probably be like this way. It's going to be here and kind of this is going to be sloped back into our kind of up into our left where the hole is, the big hole. And then I'm going to have this little right side view. The top view is going to be maybe narrow. I'll get a feel for how big it is and see if this is going to be needing to be scaled down or not. The reason why I'm because I think I told you before this would normally have been this would normally have been not dimensioned, and so if the instruction said 1-to-1 and it would have fit probably without dimensions, we'll just push. We'll see if we can. If not, maybe we have to scale this to 3/4 size or something to actually fit my dimensions. So let's just see. Top view though, I'm going to evaluate. It's going to be this, it's going to share the same width. So the 6.5 applies to the width of the top view. The depth of the top view though is going to be this 4 inches right here. So it's going to be a 4 by 6.5 inch at its widest. So I do think this is not going to fit on this paper at a 1-to-1 scale, which is why we do these experiments. So it's got to be 6.5 this way, and then it's got to be 4 this way. It's a pretty big view. Definitely does not fit with dimensions, I don't feel like. I'm moving this around a little bit. I've got to make space here. I'm probably on the wrong layer with another one. So I'll push this to the right. You can just tell this is going to be tight. I mean, that 1-to-1 scale, I'm just not going to have any room for. I mean, it's not going to be like this whole block. It's going to be a different shape. So I will create some room. I feel like this is probably going to have to be scaled down like a 3/4 scale. And so we can plan that. We can plan our paper size to be just a little bit bigger than that. Half scale is an easy one. If I'm thinking of scale, sometimes I come down here and I think these are my preloaded scales. Anything outside of here, I'm gonna have to build down here a custom scale. So if I can work within these scales, it's easier for me, right? They're already preloaded. The problem is sometimes they're just a little coarse on the, or I feel like they jump from like 1-to-1 to half scale is a big jump. Like sometimes I like some in between of those two. Similar to like a 1-to-2, that's a big jump. Like a 1-to-1 scale to a double as big is a huge jump. I like to have stuff in between that. So unfortunately, I feel like maybe they give you better options for architecture than they do for mechanical. Because I feel like a real common scales are 3/4 scales or or 1.5 times scale or 1.25 times scale or 7/8 scale or 5/8 scale. These are handy scales that work well for me for smaller parts, but yeah, this one right here is 4.5 by 6.5. And then this one, and then of course the width of the top view shares the same width as the front view. So it's 6.5 by only 4 in this direction though. So, but what I'm just not loving is that this is not going to fit on a 1-to-1 scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the assignment for us, and just so we can work ahead. What's going to be inaccurate is this. I don't think a full scale is legit. It's going to have to be. I think I'll just set it as a half scale. So I'm already just pre-planning, having kind of made an adjustment to this assignment that let's plan on using a half scale here. It's an easy scale while we're still learning to get a feel for. Go ahead.
Still want it on the B side?
Definitely going to be B size. Yeah, 11 by 17. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, there's my border of.
On the bottom.
Yeah, this is actually 16 by 9.5, and that's just because that is the actual in my border. It's reduced 11 by 17 to 9.5. Oh yeah, it's actually 16 by 9.5 is what I have to work with. So I'm gonna plan on this probably being a half scale in here. It's gonna look like this. I can go here and unlock my viewport. I love locked viewports. You probably get a lot of feedback from me, like lock your viewports, especially if you're gonna share the file with somebody else. You just don't want them to mess something up, so you just lock it down. And half scale is gonna look like something like this. Of course, that'll give me room to now space these objects away from each other. So I think I'll just use a half scale. It might be a little small in my drawing, but it prevents me from having to choose like build a custom scale. But we'll start to do that later. I just didn't want to do it like right out the gate here. I kind of want to use a preloaded scale. So I'm just going to say I think a half is going to work. Of course, now what you see is right, like, is that if I've drawn this at 1 to 1 in model space and I'm half scaling here, then I can get a better representation of what the border area is that I really have to work with if I double size this out here. So in model space, I could double size the paper, and that's what I really have to work with. But the moral of the story is, for me, I can now feel comfortable spacing these views away from each other and make room for dimensions. And it's really not, that's just a drafter choice that I have. I'm just looking for clarity. So there's no like, I don't have to like measure this out with rulers and whatever and get it perfect, because I always have the option of additional viewports if needed anyway. This is just me trying to fit it into one viewport and and then we'll work with more complicated stuff a little bit later where I do have to have multiple viewports for orthographic projection. It just becomes an alignment thing with between viewports if you have things that need to be orthographically aligned from one viewport to the other. It's just one more thing that I have to be careful of on the actual drawing. But this I like. I think it's going to be a 1/2 scale. I'm just going to lock this down momentarily and jump out here. And so I'm not going to worry so much about this anymore. You can draw it double the size if you want, if it helps you. I just know that I got to get room in between. I've got to move this. I don't know how much room I have. I don't have enough room for dimensions here. So I like this to be, I don't know, like like I said, this is only a half inch away, not quite a half inch away from itself. So I like to have a couple or a few inches there to work with in here. So I'm going to move this. Um, yeah, this is 6.5 the bottom one is 6.5 by 4.5, 6.5 wide, 4.5 tall. This is 6.5 by 4 up here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's me doing this figuring here of what's the overall shape size here. Obviously, that part's going to fit in that box pretty easily because it's not like a huge square component, but it's got some shape to it. But even so, I need to move this away. So I'm going to move that by this. I need to keep it orthographically aligned, so I don't want to pull this out. If you watch one of my videos, probably saddle bracket, I probably messed that up. Pull these. I think I actually ended up messing up the width of the top view, depth of the top view, sorry. So something like this, I don't know. My distance here now is roughly 1.6. I can tell that gives me room for dimensions in some ways. I can take a look at how it looks on a B-size sheet. I still got more room to work with if I need to. Yeah, so maybe I'll even just do a little bit more. I could even probably put a dimension, but like I said, this can be any dimension as long as I feel like I have room to work with it here and keep it aligned. Or use ortho mode, which is F8. And then I do my 45-degree miter plane. I promise you, we do this just to kind of stress this builds you and your visualization and alignment skills. When we get to 3D stuff, it'll do these for us automatically. So this is kind of like this is my version of as much as I'd want you to hand draw stuff. Like I'm glad we're not doing this with pencils and paper. We're actually in a computer program, but it still is like an old-timey technique for sure. I just want to make sure that I got 45 degrees that I can snap to here. So with a line of any length for the most part, it's really going to be as high as that and at a 45-degree angle. So find 45. I have a snap on right there. And then find where it intersects the top, the very back. It's really the back, the rear or back view of the top. And then this is fine. That's my projection line. What I do is to build it is I just bring these over. Those now align on this point, and then they're going to come down and align here as the overall width. It's critical. That's just 45 degree. I mean, there are, I think in your book, they said that this could be other, this just works well. So I'm just looking to box in the right side view now. And I generally bring over my front view or, perpendicular. Make sure my, if you're using ortho mode, that's great. Sometimes ortho mode makes the grips kind of go weird. So if you use ortho mode, sometimes you have to like shift select a, see, it's kind of weird. I do feel like my front view, look, I did this again. So you have to be careful moving your top view. Look how off I am. This is me at 0, but it doesn't match with my top view. It's slightly been pulled as I've moved it. It's not totally orthographically aligned with my front view anymore. So you just have to be careful here. Like I might I actually want to align this probably. Like I'm going to move this. I'm zooming way in here because I got to get this rectangle like that. And then this one can be trimmed or pulled back too. This is my projector going over to the miter line there. I'm gonna have the issue up top too with this projector potentially not lining up. Now I should be able to extend this and it should hit my other one. If I can't extend that, then I feel like I'm not orthographically aligned there. Oh, just be careful. I'll make sure my box is the right width. Oh, see, it's slightly off. I don't know why this thing, I didn't draw the right width for some stupid reason. But it should be 6.5 by 4. That should line up there now with that. I like that. I use those extend commands online sometimes to see if they will if they will extend, it means I definitely have orthographic alignment. So I was using that as a strategy to make sure I was in alignment. This is way better. I'm slightly narrow width when I snap my rectangle. Probably because I didn't type in 6.5 and I thought it looked like 6.5, and then I jumped over. Somehow it moved, but this I feel happier with. Yes. There's my 3 views, room for dimensions. Let's start drawing it. What I've already said is it's going to go, I'm going to view, I gotta almost do like a mirror image in my mind and how I'm going to draw this. That's essentially what I'm asking. Like this is, I'm not going to draw it in this orientation. I'm going to mirror image it in my mind. So I just want the mirror image of this in my front view. So what I might do is just piece it together. Maybe from the radiuses actually. I like that I have a nice, like 5, it's like 5 over and then 3 up for the center of these 2 radiuses that are diameter. Yeah, so I might just start with that. It just seems like a good position to start locking in some geometry here. So what that looks like, if I mirror image that in my head, practice my visualization, I might do construction lines still. I want to know like 5 inches over. From here, I'm going to cursor over like 5. And then it's going to go up to the center of that was up 3. So that really is the center of some visible line work, some circles at, I can do the inner one first. It's got a diameter of 1.75. So I could split that in my mind in half and say that's half plus 3/8. That's 7/8 radius, or I can just do by diameter. even if I'm in the radius command, just hit D, enter, then enter the diameter, which would be 1.75. That's the smaller circle. But and then I need the big radius, which is a radius of 1.5. So I can do that by a radius circle. Same center point as that one. And it's 1.5. Should hit the edge of my line. If it doesn't, I know I've got some issues because that's what my whole boundary line was to account for that. So these should be tangent now to my box that I built. And then those come down to this lower plate somewhere, right? And this one has a big old point where it comes down from being tangent to that to a plate down here. So I might draw the plate down here now where it sits, the base plate, which is got some dimensions on it here. How tall? It's 1 inch tall for the most part of it. And then its overall width here is maybe a little vague to see. It definitely is like 3 inches over to where that radius starts, and then I have this kind of like this radius kind of goes tangent to this surface. And it's a 1 inch radius, two of them because there's this side and the other side. So if I think of how that might look, I'll definitely get that definition of that better in the top view than I will in the front view. So I might be a little vague in how long this is. I might not know exactly where the center of that radius sits, so I might have to kind of leave that a little bit vague where this surface is coming together. I definitely can get the 1 inch locked in, and I can definitely get the 3 inches locked into where that starts. So I'll definitely put that in, knowing that I'll be able to see some of this in the front view, even though I'm thinking of the mirror image of it, right? Got to think backwards. Let's just kind of piece in at least the 3 by 1. What it would look like here is like I'd go up 1 inch, and then it's going to come over at least like 3, but probably longer on this top side. I'm going to draw that in at least 3 by 1 here. So what's going to allow me to do is maybe do some lines that are tangent here. I know that there is a line here that's going to be tangent to here and line up with this point here. That's kind of that front. So it's going to go from here, and then it's going to be tangent. And there's tangent. It's actually coming up. My grip tangent's coming up because I've got it turned on right here, tangent. If it's not coming up easy, you can always hold down shift and right click and just pick up tangent. And that's great because it just locks you in on I can enter escape. So I know that this is coming down like that. This has got a little bit of a radius that I might not even have a line anyway, but I probably would have this line carry out to where that tapers off. And then I just need to look at this backside. Does it just go tangent down to that point, or is it actually out to down to maybe 5 inches here? Let's go look. Yeah, it comes down to like I would have a line here on the bottom of that would go out to 5 inches, and that's the tangent line there. So I gotta make sure I come out to that 5 inch point again. That point right there is where I'd have a tangent line. So if I'm on visible line work, this one continues a little further to there, and then I'm going to draw up to a tangent here like that. So that's what I mean. I've reverse imaged that, and now I'm going to trim out some stuff. Sometimes it helps if you want to trim to turn off like your construction layer for a minute, and then you don't have to trim as much. I just want to trim this out so it looks like the piece, and I can turn back on my construction material here. So there's some data. Maybe I'm at a dead end a little bit. I definitely have like I'll probably put in the holes through this plate in the top view and then project them down and figure out where the hidden lines would be here. As I draw the top view, I can probably put in that fillet and then project some of the details of that fillet down here. It's close to how it would look actually here, but just maybe a little bit of correction that needs done. But for this part, I think I'll just say that's how my front view is going to look. Top view. So that's the biggest lesson, is just knowing to take something like this, identifying, using the rules of how do I pick a front view, and saying, well, I think there is a better view than maybe how this. I always think an engineer has sent me this, and I'm like, well, I'm going to apply my ASME CAD skills that I have, and we're going to just kind of define this just a little clearer in the front view, and maybe I'm going to stop and pick a better front view. You have the luxury to reorient things as a drafter, and then just sometimes you don't. And so it's not that because I'm not looking always to create more work for myself necessarily. If this had been drawn backwards and it worked for us fine for years, maybe that's not worth the time investment to fix it. And so you have to, I don't know. have to choose your adventure. Depends on how much time you have, how bad your managers are micromanaging you. I don't know. It all varies. But I'm going to project up. I'm going to build my top view. So really the way these assignments go is that I have this whole like, this is the process of just building. I get this to a point where I'm happy with it, how it fits on my print. And then I start, I'm going to apply all the lines, the hidden lines, the center lines, get all that done. And then I'm going to run, and then I'm going to start dimensioning. It's kind of my, icing on the cake here where I really become a drafter. So let's do this phase here. But so I'll work for another like 10 minutes, then we can take a break. But I think we can finish this today though. For sure, these are going to project up. This is the width of the hole that I'm going to see probably as hidden line work above. So I'm going to take these the quadrants. Sorry. If you see me, like you'll see the way I work, and I think it's because I've told you that I'm really used to having the 3D mouse in my other hand. So I'm not like a keyboard junkie for the most part. I'm mostly like a click and right click. And this is how I hit my enter button a lot, is that I use the right click menu on my mouse a lot. And so when I'm exiting commands, like if I'm going to project this up, so I've even right clicked myself into the next command. If I right click, the top of the menu is my repeat line. It's like how somebody would push enter again and be right into so if you see this menu come up, that's my right click menu that I have access to. And then here I go, I'm like drawing this line, and then I click, and then I exit the command. I just like right click and say enter. And that's just me not even needing the keyboard at all. I'm just using my mouse buttons. So I feel like I use my hand on the keyboard mostly to hit escape a command more than anything, and to use the 10 keypad for my data inputs. But this goes up. So then I really, that's probably all the data I can pull up, other than I just need to start drawing some of it in and looking at what I've got to work with. It's this little footprint here with these little radiuses that are 3/4. So it's this little 4 by kind of 3 footprint, and then it has this radius that comes in. That's 1. And this little width, yeah, it's 1 inch wide there. So I should be able to see this in the top view. I would see this surface not as a slope, but at least I'd see the surface. It's going to be severely foreshortened in my top view. And I get the true length of it in my front view. But so it might be helpful to have like a center line on here. Sometimes I do these, sometimes I don't. This is just a center line if I have this, I can offset a center line to kind of make the depth of this. So here's me just using another command, offset this line maybe by 0.5. This thing is going to be, I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going to offset both sides of this line, and then I'm going to push those to the visible layer. That one and this one. That's kind of this thing coming down to that point there. And it's all going to be like a visible line like that. Out here, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back into my line command here. I did offset it a half. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. I'm going to undo that and not do that. I just drew a line of construction over a line. I got to make sure I have visible line this here. Yeah, I did. I just offset that by a half because this thing is a 1 inch wide here. So I kind of use my center line as a strategic line a little bit. And then here, and then it goes over to that 3 inch, which is what that is, that point there. So I can draw this to there. And there's no, like, just because I proceed this way, you could visualize this differently. And like, I'm never super critical on how you got to the same point. This is my skiing equation, I'm just like, however you got to the point, if it's right, it's right. Thelonious Monk said, wrong is right. He was an old jazz dude that was totally bizarre, but he would say wrong is right. And to an extent, I agree. Then there is some points where stealing is never right. Unless you're stealing from the 1%. That's so, no, we'll stop. This is going to come here. This is where that radius is going to kick up and come against the surface. So this is where, like, I could do a tangent radius, because what I have is what I'm looking at is this fillet here. These are 1 inch radius. So I could do like a tangent to this surface, tangent to this surface. In my top view, they appear as a line. Like this surface appears as a line, and so does this surface right here appear as a line that's kind of down away from. But I could do that, so I think I will. Like do a tangent radius, as long as I can and identify which is which and who is who. Let's see. Tangent radius, I like this one. it should be tangent to this with a radius of 1. Like that. That's how that fillet will look. You could mirror that over, can mirror this piece of geometry if I select it. And my mirror line is just going to be the center line of this thing like that. And I don't want to erase that. So there's my 2 that I can trim now. Of course, if you go to trim this, it'll trim in between all of your, this is where a lot of times I just turn off my construction layer and then I do the trimming that I want here. I have a little line that I need to write or draw right here. Like this should come straight. I should have a line that is square corner here and it hits this quadrant or this point of tangency right here. It may not be on the actual quadrant, by the way, but does not drop the right way. Disappears. Well, I would say maybe we entered the commands wrong in this. So let me choose mine. Tangent, tangent, radius. It just says specify the 2 tangent points. It I mean, sometimes if it disappears, it means it couldn't create that in that space. So there's my tangent, tangent. That shouldn't be the case here. I should be able to use quite a wide variety of radiuses here. So mine's 1. Did it work? Yeah, just sometimes, try it again. What I need though is a line that actually like goes from here to the point of tangency here, which is kind of what I want is the tangent to that circle. So of all the grips I have, I would probably want to shift select tangent and make it be tangent to that circle because that will totally make sure that this trims out correctly. And if I picked a quadrant or some intersection point with the grips that I all have on, it could be just slightly wrong. I'm going to do the same thing here where I need the line to go from here to a point of tangency, which that could be it. That's probably it, but there's an intersection point. I got a lot of grips. I can just shift, right click, pick tangent, and I can pick this circle anywhere. It knows that it can only be in tangent in one place. And then I might turn this off and do a little trim work here. So I'm going to trim this now, which I should be able to trim. Yeah, like that. I think I'm going to do a fillet out here on these sharp corners that aren't actually sharp corners. They should be a radius of 3/4 of an inch, these two here. So I think I'll use my fillet command on that. So if I just do fillet, even without my construction layer on, I know that's going to be a fillet. You've got to first put in your radiuses, right? I need them to be 3/4 inch radiuses. So that's my distance. And then I always like to select multiple if I have multiple to do, because I hate that it exits out of after one um I don't know why that's not working. Maybe my radius didn't get put in right. It didn't. For some reason, my radius is not right. So R for radius, I should be in here. What is it? 0.75. And then multiple. There. For some reason, my data didn't go in, but now it did. And then we also have a hole there too. So I might turn on my construction layer now. And I'm missing a line here though too, right? Like this should appear as a line here, even though it's really this radius feature right here. It's like that very apex point of where it hits our binding area, somewhere down here, probably in line with the center line here. Yeah, it's just going to appear as a line in the top view. I just need those holes, and so those holes are at what? They're 1.5 by 3/4. So in 3/4, and then 1.5 from this front surface here. 1.5 by 3/4. Okay. And that should be the same. That should say 2x. So I can see a problem with mine is that they are 3/4 in diameter, 0.75 in diameter. This should probably say 2x, and that should probably say 2x. That way I am verifying that these are in alignment this way. Yeah, I think so. But we'll just put in a piece of construction material that from here it's like 1.5. Is that what it is? I have to make sure I come in on this right point and say it's 1.5, cursored over, and then this was 3/4. That's the center of one of the circles. And I'll just probably use the mirror command after I place one. So I'll probably do a center radius circle. It's a 3/4 inch diameter. That would be 3/8 radius, or you can use the diameter for yeah. think we did 4.5 high this way. That's 3 plus the 1.5 inches. This should be the 4.5 inch like height of the front view. And the top view doesn't have that in common. The top view has 4 by 6.5 this way. That's the 5 plus the 1.5 inch radius. So this one should be 4.5 inches tall here. So if I'm measuring like the front for the top view, it should only be 4 inches wide here. This from this point to here, 4 inches. And that's just me looking at this. This is 4 inches wide at we call this the depth. Sorry, I'm gonna say the term wrong all the time, but I do try to keep it. That is the depth we're talking about, the depth of the front view, the depth of the top view. I'm gonna say the wrong term with the wrong view constantly. That's depth, yeah. 3/4 inch diameter here though. But I call it 0.375 radius. And I'm just going to mirror that piece over. Same center line with no. So that's data that will come back as construction line work, and I can just probably pull one of the quadrants. These are in alignment. They should be from quadrant to quadrant in alignment this way, or from center to center. So I'm just going to pull one of them across my. This is where the hidden line will show up in the front view. So I'm just pulling a little bit of data that I have down to the front view. Those will become hidden lines with a center line down through them to show that there's like some hole feature. It'll make sense, especially with the top view that I look at. I think this might be done on the top view. These are gonna become hidden lines as well, like this that I've projected up already. Those are hidden lines in the top view, and they'll have a center line through them as well. These will have center marks on them. The holes where they appear as a round, and where they appear cylindrical, we just put a single center line down between them. So. But I think I told you I like to work on visible line work, and then I go back and probably do my hidden line work, and then I go back and do my center line work, and then I'm ready to dimension. So I'm going to finish the right side view, then I'll take a break. I feel like I can just start projecting stuff around the corner here. Pretty much everything's going. The outside profiles, this has got to come across and down. So I'm going to make a pretty messy grid pattern here of the information that I have to take from the top view down. These are going to come across just like they would from between the other two views. They're going to become hidden lines as well down here at some point. And so this one's going to get a little messy, but that's all right. I still don't feel like it's messy enough that I'm going to probably build another construction layer, but that's what I would do. Once these things get super crowded, I'll just turn off the construction layer 1 and just make a copy of that layer on my layer properties, and I'll just call it like construction layer 2. And then that way I'm not deleting anything. I'm just cleaning it up so that I can keep drawing without making myself confusion, because this gets a little confusing. I've still got to project stuff across from the front view as well. Like this height here I need to know. And then I'm going to need the data for the hole over there too, this one. So this gets messy, but and I'm just going to make sense out of what is all this data that I just took over. Well, it definitely, so I moved to my visible line work. It definitely is flat across the bottom. So I just start with what I know for sure. It's definitely going to have a visible line that just sits across the bottom, that 4 inches, that 4 inch deep dimension. I'm going to see that it's just going to be it's just going to be, flat across, even though it has radiuses here. I can't really tell that from the right side view. I can only tell that from the top view. So, and then it's going to go up the 1 inch there, and then it's going to come into the width here. So I feel like I can piece this together. It comes up the 1 inch, which is to there. Then it comes in to this line coming around to right here. And then that goes all the way up to the very top of the view there. And then it goes over that inch, which I think is this one. And then back here. So mostly I'm just tracing the lines that I built, the grid pattern that I built. And then I can just take a look at this and say, actually, this one would come all the way across here. Well, not necessarily. That's debatable. Like, let me show you what I'm looking at, is that Yeah, I think just because I have this hard turn of the like from this surface, which is now my right side view that I've created, and to where it turns to this sloped line. This is also going to appear foreshortened in the right side view. But I think there's going to be a hard line there. And so what I'm looking at is this little area that I don't have that hard line to. It's right here to here. That's going to be a visible line. So what, and then I can just turn this off and just take a look because it gets confusing about what this is starting to look like. If it will turn off for me. Thank you very much. Oh, you can see that I missed tracing that from there to there, probably. Turn that on real quick just to make sure there wasn't something right there. That's good. But it kind of looks like that. Um, with some hidden lines here and a hidden line across for the whole. Like I don't think that I don't know if I'm missing anything per se. Yeah. Because these are kind of like smooth blending radiuses here. I don't think I'm going to pick up a line where the radius becomes the surface here. I think we're going to call that like just a smooth transition to where in the right side view it'll look like a rectangle. I won't be able to tell there's a radius to those corners. Like I can't tell. This I feel like I'm going to pick up a little more data because this is a little bit inaccurate. Like this is definitely where the front edge there is, but really this thing tapers. What's that? Oh yeah, and that's it. So I feel like I'm going to actually maybe pick up this point here. So this line right here is going to extend a little bit further past this out to where these surfaces blend together right here. Maybe I won't have a line down right here, but I definitely want to carry this top line over to this point. What do you got? For sure, I need to carry that over. So I'll do that with my construction layer on and just bring down a construction layer line. It's really this point right here that I don't even have anything from. It's where that transition happens between radius and surface there. It's this endpoint. I'm going to project it down. It really doesn't need to go down all the way. I can pull this all the way if I want, but I'm only going to trace some of this. So if I enter that, this line needs to extend. So I'm just going to use extend. Sorry, extend. And I'm just going to extend this line to that point. So now when I turn this off, this is the change I've made here. I'll switch over to this. Turn that off. It's going to kind of look like that. If I drop another line, these are the things that aren't like crazy critical, but they look kind of weird. Something that looks unfinished to me. I do have this that I drew last year in the wrong orientation, just because I don't know. I was new and I just did it as I saw it, and then I realized later that it wasn't correct. But I'm going to go to my drawing and just see what my orthographic drawing looks like here. It was from week 5. It was this anchor base ortho. So I'm going to open this up. This is going to be in the wrong orientation. I'm just going to see how I finish. I'll go to the model space and take a look at it. See, this is why I corrected this. I didn't agree with this orientation. However, it does work, and somebody could argue that this is how I chose. And this is where I mean, if this was already done and work that was already done, maybe I wouldn't think twice about redoing all the work. But it does give me a look at like yeah, see, that's pretty much it for the right side view. It looks like a little T pattern that I just need to put in the hidden and center line work. Over here, I did choose to draw that down, but that's debatable to me. Like I feel like this is either a hit or miss, and it just depends on how the machine work, like just, depends on how they build this, whether this is all machined out of one part or maybe this is a part put together that's welded together and or it's plastic. I don't know. So depending on whether or not I'd see this visible line is debatable. So I'm just going to leave mine out and then act like it just blends in smoothly to that other surface. So I don't think I'm going to put this line in. Maybe this looks a little more like, maybe it looks a little more finished, but it is really a gray area. Maybe a drafting manager should say, oh, I always want those just to look capped off so it doesn't cause confusion. If they thought this one looked like maybe that was causing some confusion here. I'm gonna do my hidden line work, and then so I'm gonna jump over to my hidden layer with my construction layer turned on. So I kind of trace over these lines with hidden lines. All I need to do is just kind of identify what is what. So I can start with these little holes in the front. That's this one here to here. And then it will have a center line. I'll just be able to use the center line little command here when I get to it. Drop the center lines in with that. I'll go back and do that's the only hidden work I think on the front view. On the top view, we'd have this would be hidden lines right here, the sides of the hole. Remember, like hidden lines are actually, they would be visible line if the thing would let us, if the view would let us, if it was cut accordingly. Like hidden lines are buried visible lines. So I think that's the only one there. And then in the front, in the right side view, we have we have both the little holes right here. I just double check that that's the side that yep, this one right here goes from the top plate that's an inch thick through it. And then we have the big hole in front of it this way with those. This is the top hole, yep, right there. That's hidden. That's the end of my hidden line work, I think. Then I'll switch over to my center line layer. And I'll probably just turn off my construction layer because I have the little pieces I need. These are already kind of like I'm going to use them strategically a little bit so that I'm going to use the center line, not the center mark. I will use that too, but I'll use the center line to apply between these two parallel lines that are for sure the sides of the hole. I have to make sure that that is the geometry that I have hidden line. That's correct. I'll apply that center line and I'll apply it to these holes as well. And you could copy and move that over, but I think I like to choose a new command, I guess, and apply those. These they have to extend the same. They have to extend a 1/4 inch pass. So I choose to make that extension from here, the properties panel, and making these 1/4 inch extensions. And then I might choose to just match those properties of this one that I changed. Those properties will be able to be matched like that. Through match properties, it's a quick way to add those extensions from one to the other. And then we just need center marks. So I'll put my center marks on there. There on this hole needs one. Really, I think I'll pick the radius of this one. Maybe I'll show the concentric nature of the radius to the hole by doing this. So I feel like maybe the better choice of center mark would be this one. That shows some that they're concentric, radius to center. And I will extend those as well, but I'm gonna drop these center marks here too. Seems like you would put one on a radius or a fillet, but actually that's one that we sometimes omit is the center marks on a radius like that. Sometimes like this is a case where I would include it. This is a case where I'm probably not going to do additional center marks here. I'm gonna let the orthographic projection just let me help me interpret that. Otherwise, I'm gonna get a little bit of like center line saturation maybe here, so it might become more confusing than it is helpful. But what I do need to do is make sure that I do the extensions on these at a 1/4 inch. So and then I'll match those properties to the other ones that I have. So I'll just use that to match them here. It doesn't apply the length, it just applies that as a property to it. So there's center marks. One more set of center lines there. I missed this one up top on the top view. So this one should have center lines through it there. And then I just need to make sure I would match the properties of the longer ones, like this one, to that one. Source first, then the one that you're matching to it next. I don't know if you guys see anything I missed. Pretty close. Looks pretty good. We're ready to dimension. Let's take 10 minutes and we'll dimension this thing. So this is one that I hadn't dimensioned before. So I just have to, generally my way that I'm going to dimension is I'm just going to try to, I guarantee I'm probably going to need all of these dimensions. I just have to be careful which view I put where. And then I'm going to pull up what I'm going to do after let's take 10 minutes. Then we'll pull up the rubric for this assignment and we'll go through that. Because that is your self-checker. That rubric is your freaking self-checker that you should be you should go back to your drawing, go through the rubric like from week to week, the rubrics are pretty consistent. There might be a one liner on one rubric that isn't on the other because the assignment has a little special feature. Like the one that I can think of that I graded the other day was we had that one drawing from week 3 that was to a coordinate point. A lot of people did not draw it to a coordinate point. And that's a little like one liner on that rubric that if you would have self-checked that, you would have been like one of those line items for that particular drawing was, is that are the coordinate points correct on that drawing? And a lot of people didn't do that self-check process to catch that. So I'm going to call this, and I'm actually call this part 1 of this drawing. Like I always feel like these drawings, I end up with part 1, which is like just getting the drawing orthographic projection in. Part 2 is maybe me finishing it up, putting it on paper, getting the dimensions right. And so I'll end this recording and then I'll do part 2 of this. So.